Welcome to Trashmagination, a podcast about reimagining trash. I'm Carla Brown. Today's episode is about making exercise equipment from recycled materials. It's almost the new year, and many of us will set a goal of increasing our physical activity this year. And many activities do not require any exercise equipment. But if you want to add activities that increase your strength and flexibility, you might find homemade exercise equipment increases your motivation. You can often find secondhand exercise equipment at places like Play It Again Sports or a thrift shop. I saw kettlebells, which normally cost $40 or $50, selling for $10 or $15. When you buy secondhand, you reduce items going to landfill. And you can also request exercise equipment on your Buy Nothing group, which is where I got dumbbells, yoga mats, and an agility ladder. I became interested in making exercise equipment from recycled materials for my Taiko group. 1 month per year, I lead practice. And to warm us up, I created activity stations around the room. People would rotate through the circuit every 2 to 3 minutes in pairs. And everyone got a kick out of my homemade equipment. And if you're laughing when you're exercising, that's a good thing. Another fan of my homemade exercise equipment is my son, because we were working together on his personal fitness merit badge for Scouts, and we would do running, and we also did some exercises back at home, and my homemade items made him laugh and engaged him as well. As much as possible, I look for ideas that you could make if you have items that you typically use in creative reuse projects, like old blue jeans, old socks, old backpacks, and maybe even a few pieces of PVC pipe from some of your previous projects. So let's start with medicine balls, which is one of my favorite pieces of exercise equipment. The exercises I like to do with medicine balls are, my favorite is that I throw a medicine ball down to the ground as hard as I can. And then I bend my knees, I pick it up, and then I throw it down again. If you do this over and over, this is a great cardio exercise and it works on your squats. Another exercise I do is I hold a medicine ball at my waist level and I twist side to side, and this warms up my lower back. Another one I do is that when I'm doing crunches, I lift the medicine ball so it's suspended up over my chest. And then when I'm doing the crunch, I don't curl towards my knees, but I push the medicine ball straight up toward the ceiling while engaging my upper abdominals. Medicine balls are made from strong materials like leather. I saw tutorials which involved cutting a basketball and filling it with sand to your desired weight. And then you would wrap the ball with many layers of duct tape. We own a basketball that is getting old, but it's not defunct, and my kids still like to play with it. And I could ask for a used ball on my Buy Nothing group, but I decided to make a medicine ball with materials that I already own and that I'm trying to use up. So I cut 6 squares from old denim jeans that were 9 by 9 inches. I sewed them with my sewing machine into a cube, leaving a small section unstitched so that I could turn the cube inside out and hide the raw seams. Then I started stuffing the cube with old socks. So I do mend socks the first time they get a hole, and I may do it a few times, but soon they get too worn out for even that effort. When I stuffed my cube full of socks as tight as I could, it weighed 6 pounds. Now at the gym, I use a medicine ball that weighs more like 15 or 20 pounds. So my homemade ball was a little bit too light for most of my activities. And my plan is to make a larger cube to get it up to 15 pounds. A similar piece of exercise equipment to a medicine ball is a sandbag, which is a long tube with handles on each end. You can make it the way I made my medicine bag by sewing a tube instead of a cube and then filling it with sand or socks or water inside bottles. Or you can creatively reuse a small duffel bag which already has straps on the ends. Kettlebells are another type of exercise equipment that is very handy. Usually they're made from a big chunk of metal. This makes it very dense and a very heavy object. And what is important about it is it has a handle. And the exercises that I do with kettlebells involved lifting them up from the ground or swinging them around my waist. So one way to make a homemade kettlebell is to fill a plastic milk jug with water or sand. I took my 9-inch square medicine ball and I made it into a kettlebell by adding a handle to it. The handle I made from a recycled Taekwondo belt from my friend Jen, and the way that I attached it is I just sewed it with very small stitches to the denim cube that I had sewn. You know that I love making creative reuse projects that involve sewing. So another idea I could make, which I haven't yet, but it sounds really fun, is to make wrist and ankle weights using up fabric scraps. And what you do is you sew a small rectangular shaped pillow and you fill it again with sand or other rice, that kind of thing, something heavy. And you attach strapping. And I have a small collection of strapping that I save from old backpacks or canvas bags when I'm going to throw them out, but I keep the strapping. So I could easily make these wrist and ankle weights. The next type of exercise equipment that you can make are dumbbells. So there is a tutorial by master recycler Danny Seo where he makes dumbbells from recycled CDs. He uses a 1-foot long metal pipe that fits through the center of some old CDs. And at one end of the pole, he puts a nut, then he slides on about 20 or 30 CDs, whatever weight you want, and then he puts another nut, and then he does the same thing on the other side of the pipe to balance it out and make a set of dumbbells. An agility ladder is made from 2 long straps with horizontal bars between them. It looks kind of like a fabric ladder. And you put it on the ground and then you run or hop very fast in the spaces without touching the bars or straps. You probably have seen football players doing these types of drills. So this is a great piece of equipment to make cardio more fun. And with my Taiko group, we run through the ladder one after the other and then circle back to do a new movement. So I lucked out a month ago when my neighbor gave me her agility ladder. But in case you don't have a neighbor who's giving one away, you can make an agility ladder from recycled materials. I will link to a tutorial that recycled 11 paint stir sticks, and the person laid them out on a long strip of duct tape. And then they put another strip of duct tape to cover the sticky bits and to hold it all together into a ladder. The next type of exercise equipment is called gliding discs. The way this works is you put your feet or hands on the discs, and if you put the discs under your feet while you're in a push-up position, you can then walk your hands across the room with your feet gliding behind you, and this is a very tough workout. And if you're working out on wood floors, you can replace gliding discs with socks or washcloths. Or on carpet, you can replace them with paper plates. I will link to 2 videos. One is called a paper plate workout and another one's called a washcloth workout. So you can see all sorts of excellent activities that you can do with these very simple materials. Battle ropes are 50-foot long, very heavy ropes. They're usually folded in half and anchored in the middle. So you hold the 2 ends of the rope and then you whip them for an incredible arm and cardio workout. So new battle ropes cost maybe $50 to $70. One creative reuse alternative is to ask your fire department for their old hoses. So they have to replace them on a regular basis, and often they will give them to you for free. Other people have used recycled garden hoses filled with sand or water, although they're not as heavy as battle ropes at the gym. Resistance bands are long pieces of rubber that you put under your feet or around an object and then you pull on them to build strength. The challenge with most resistance bands is that they are made from a material that breaks down over time, especially if you store it in a hot place like your car. And you can ask me how I know this, but you can make homemade resistance bands from a recycled t-shirt or a strip of spandex fabric if you have some in your fabric scrap collection. You can cut the t-shirt to make it a loop and then you can pull on it. And I will link to a tutorial about how to do this on a blog called And Then Came Elle, which is a resource blog for families who are supporting a family member with autism. These resistance bands can be used by people with autism as a calming technique. There's a product called Stretch Ease, which is like a giant loop sewn from spandex, which is in effect a giant resistance band. And if you had a piece of spandex clothing like leggings, they might also be a great thing to creatively reuse into a resistance band as well. The next piece of equipment has a fun name. It's called a slosh pipe. The most challenging part about this project is finding a PVC pipe that is about 4 feet long, but you might have access to that. What you do is you purchase end caps to put on each end of the pipe, and you fill the pipe, mostly fill it with water. Then you carry it while you walk, squat, or do lunges, and the water sloshes back and forth along the pipe. And this causes you to get a great core workout as you try to keep the pipe steady. Another place that you could get a long PVC pipe is from a Habitat for Humanity restore, or you might see them in dumpsters at a construction site. A wrist roller is a piece of exercise equipment for strengthening your forearms. It also conditions the front part of your shoulders or deltoids and your core. A wrist roller is a pole with a weight attached to a rope. You roll the pole forwards or backwards, and this wraps the string around the pole, and this causes the weight to rise. And you can make your own wrist roller by drilling a hole through a dowel and then tying a rope through that hole, and then you attach a weight to the end of the rope. And the weight could be, for example, a plastic milk jug filled with water. So my next topic is foam rollers, and I am saving ideas about creative reuse of yoga mats for a future podcast episode, but today I'm going to share one of those ideas, which is how to make a foam roller from a recycled foam yoga mat. A foam roller is a firm tube that you lay on and you roll back and forth to give yourself a massage. So I learned about the benefits of foam rollers last spring. That's the busy season for my Taiko group during cherry blossom season. I sometimes have chronic pain in my quads during cherry blossom season. And you might be thinking, in your quads, which is, like the fronts of your thighs, and you would think playing drums, I would have pain in my arms and back. But did you know that Taiko is a huge workout for your quads? And that's because we stand with our knees bent while we play in order to be more grounded. So I told a personal trainer about this pain, which I knew it was different than typical muscle pain. So typical muscle pain after a workout, using a new type of exercise, you might have pain and then over a few days it disappears. But in this case, the pain just never disappeared. It just kept going for weeks. And the personal trainer said it was likely because my fascia or connective tissue had gotten too tight. And the best solution was a massage or rolling on a foam roller. So you can make a foam roller by wrapping a PVC pipe with a recycled foam yoga mat. Again, it would be great if you could get that PVC pipe at a place like Habitat for Humanity Restore. Or because this is a shorter piece of PVC pipe, it might be something that you are more likely to get on something like your Buy Nothing group, because it's the kind of thing that's left over from another project and it might be just cluttering up somebody's workroom. Another way to make a foam roller is to put a dowel, like a broomstick, through a pool noodle. Now that foam roller will not be as firm as the one with the yoga mat and the PVC pipe, but it might be just perfect for what you want to do. Next, I'll share ideas for yoga equipment from recycled materials. So this week, I sewed a yoga block. It's also called a yoga brick. So a yoga block is usually made from rubber, wood, or cork, and it is the size of a typical brick used in construction. A yoga block provides support for certain yoga poses. And I will link to an article in the show notes by Yoginomics, which shows all the ways that you can use a yoga block. So one way to make a yoga block from recycled materials is to take a piece of scrap wood and sand the edges until they are nice and smooth. And I really like that idea, and someday I might do it. But I got inspired for this project by Candice de Riverde on my Facebook group Upcycled Cloth Collective. So she had sewed a yoga block from denim scraps, similar to how I sewed my medicine ball, and she had stuffed hers with fabric scraps. So, just like my medicine ball, I stuffed mine with old socks. My denim yoga block is not quite as sturdy as a wooden or cork yoga block, so it might not be useful for every type of pose that you would do with the block, but I think it's very helpful for some of them, especially those that are involving supporting your joints. Another piece of yoga equipment that I made from fabric scraps was a yoga bolster. So a bolster is a very firm pillow that you put under your lower back or you sit on it. And again, it provides support to your body during specific poses. So my friend and Iyengar yoga instructor Leanne asked me to sew a new cover for one of her yoga bolsters because the cover had ripped. And I sewed together upholstery samples into a bolster cover for her. I made 2 layers of patchwork fabric and I put them back to back to ensure that it would be extra strong. I will link to a blog I wrote about the bolster cover. I hope to make more yoga bolsters and stuff them with recycled blankets or quilts that are falling apart. Many yoga practitioners also creatively reuse belts as part of their yoga practice, and that's a great idea. You could also make a belt-like item by sewing fabric scraps into a belt shape. Now, regarding yoga mats, there are tutorials showing how to sew your own yoga mats, which you certainly could do from fabric scraps. And while most people use foam yoga mats, the problem is that foam yoga mats are challenging to recycle. But that's the topic of my future episode. You can do yoga really on any mat that is non-slip, or you can be like me and get them secondhand on your Buy Nothing group. Thank you for listening. Get more ideas for exercise equipment from recycled materials on my Pinterest board. How have you made exercise equipment from recycled materials like wood scraps or fabric scraps? Please let me know at trashmagination@gmail.com. As I said at the start, you don't really need exercise equipment to exercise more. So don't say, I'll start exercise once I do these creative reuse projects. Instead, you can make these items as you have time and you need a boost in your motivation and your exercise routine that you have already started. There are many benefits to making exercise equipment, especially if it means you exercise more. However, I am concerned that as a society, many of us are becoming more isolated and lonely. If you can share your exercise equipment, you might find it more energizing, even if you are more introverted. I am lucky to be in a special Taiko group, and we make exercise a lot of fun. So I hope that you share your homemade exercise equipment with a group to have more fun with everyone. Are you setting any New Year's resolutions related to creative reuse? My word of the year for 2019 was inventory. So my focus has been on using the items that I collect in real projects, not just dreaming about them and not just collecting. I also gave away many collections of recycled materials to other keen creative reuse people. My creative reuse resolution for 2020 is making 12 fidget quilts for seniors with dementia. I talked about fidget quilts back in episode 72, which was about community service through creative reuse. If you make fidget quilts, let's connect and let's keep each other accountable. I don't ask often, but it would be a generous year-end gift if you gave a review of this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. It's a zero-waste gift with zero cost. Until next time, may you get inspired to move more in 2020 with exercise equipment made from recycled materials.